session. We have just finished the Asia panel. The title was From Clicktivism to Civic Activism, and we actually concentrated on Southeast Asia. And now here, after the panel, I have my panelists who have done a wonderful job, and I would now like them, for the audience online, to actually tell us a few words about what they think that the audience should take away from this session, or actually what do they think, what are the most important findings from this session. So I would like to firstly ask Cherian George, who is assistant professor in Nanyang Technological University in Singapore, to start.
Well, thanks, Marina. I think if you look at the Asian situation, there are reasons for great optimism and excitement, but also, I think, no reason for exuberance. Because what we see is that the internet has multiplied voices. It has allowed previously marginalized people and interests to finally have their say in the public sphere. But what it all means for democratization is still a big question mark. Because some of those new voices that are coming online are not necessarily pushing their societies in democratic directions. I mean, we have, for example, the widespread across Asia, ethnic nationalism, intolerant religious majorities, and so on, who assert themselves online in a way that denies rights to minorities. And so I think what's clear to me in our discussions is that even as we promote the right to speak online, there needs to be a parallel effort to develop tolerance, to develop the rule of law, and respect for minority rights.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that insight, Cherian. And I would like to pass the word to Gayathry, who is the director of the Southeast Asian Press Alliance. So what would you like the audience to take away from this session?
I think in many ways I excuse me, also resonate with what Cherian is saying, in that there are some benefits of it in terms of how we can see online actions that are also spilling over offline or taken up offline. For example, what is happening in the Philippines, in order to protest the cybercrime prevention law, as an example. So I think that it shows how people are taking advantage of the tool, but precisely in that context, I think what is important is that there is a vibrant media environment. So again, in the case of the Philippines, I think the two important elements in there is the vibrant media environment and a judiciary that can be seen or upheld as rather independent, that actually can respond to the mass movement or the demand. So I think that looking at how much the value of online activism is really also falls back on the overall institution. So rule of law is really fundamental. I mean, I'm not pessimistic entirely, because I do think that it does create some kind of a confidence in more people that it's okay to participate in the processes. So I think that optimism is there, but at the same time, we cannot ignore that the institutions, the older institutions, we're talking about really old-fashioned, building of rule of law, judiciary, the media, that's something that we still cannot ignore. So I would say that would be the main issues.
You just mentioned the case of the Philippines. The remarks that you have, do you think that they are applicable basically for other regions as well? Or would you say there's some Asian specifics in that way?
I think we have come to more or less realize that there will be very, very specific local nuances, because it depends on also the national agenda, your what are the primary sort of identity markers. I think that actually makes a lot of impact. But I think if you look at democracy as something that of value, then some of these can be applied anywhere, because it does fall back on what is that value that we are fighting for. We talk about activism, what is it for? Social justice, it's democracy. So I think definitely it can be sort of transported to other places.
Cherian, any remark?
No, I think that's well said.
Wonderful. I would of course prefer you to disagree, but maybe one of the next panelists will do that. So Fathi, who is actually from Malaysiakini, which is an online independent political news website in Malaysia.
I guess from my observation, the interesting development, particularly for the past few years, is that government leaders themselves are embracing internet. Though they has acknowledged it, since very beginning, since 1990s, but if they now they embrace it, meaning that they are willing to compete, on online. Meaning it is good. Normally, in traditional ways of doing things, Malaysian government prefer to curb or to control, to sidestep the process by introducing new laws to control it. But by making themselves the present fact online, it is good because it's encourage better competition. Though offline wise speaking. The resources may not be fair. Government leaders may have a lot of resources compared to opposition or NGOs, but at least just competition will give the impression that we are willing. The governments is willing to compete online. The issues are now is that how far the debate, the discussion will benefit the people and will strengthen democracy in Malaysia.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Fathi. And our next panelist is Yanuar Nugroho, who I have to read what he is because it's very long. He is working on secondment from the University of Manchester for the Indonesian government in the Delivery Unit for Development, Monitoring and Oversight, but that's quite a recent development.
Yes.
So it's very interesting, I think, because you have a bit of a perspective from both sides, I would say.
Yep.
Please.
Well, thanks, Marina. I think in my reflection, having researched the dynamics of the use of digital media in civil society in Indonesia, I think my observation leads me to more or less a conclusion that those who are successful in carrying out both online and offline engagement, I would say, are those who more or less have some strategy in using the technology. Of course, the internet, as we see now, could be convivial, could be very simple and also interesting tools to express spontaneity. It's very spontaneous activities. But I think if we talk about change and civil society, we need something more than spontaneous activism. We need something more than ad hoc. We need something which is strategized into the organization itself. So, for example, I always quote this story, and I hope you don't mind if I tell this story again, about the Jalin Merapi. This is the voluntary groups, humanitarian groups, which help a lot during the Merapi eruption, volcano eruption in Central Java. It's amazing how they use the technologies. And the story that I keep telling is how the use of Twitter could help them gather support, tremendous support, 6,000 meal packs within 30 minutes. Which I think it can only be parallel in the Bible, I think, the story. But what I see is that it is not just an activism, it is not just ad hoc. They have done their homework. They organized their volunteers, they build the infrastructures, so to say, but also they have the strategy to some extent. Of course, it's not perfect, but my point is that I think in order for civil society to harness the potential of this digital media, in order to enlarge, to widen their influence for change, I think the use of digital media needs to be strategized. I think that's it.
Because, in your example that you bring, I think it's in half an hour?
Half an hour, yes.
How many?
6,000 meal packs. So can you imagine? Yeah, 5th of November 2010.
Of rice?
Of rice, yes.
Of rice,
yeah,
that's amazing.
5th of November 2010, 7:30 in the evening, rain, it was raining quite hard. And then there was a request for 6,000 meal packs for 6,000 refugees. Nobody could, at the time, could answer how to provide that kind of needs.
I think that's a stunning example also because when we discussed during the panel, we also realized that actually digital media are changing something in civil society, but it seems that it's still not in Asia enough for the redistribution of power. And who knows, maybe these days will come, maybe not, maybe we will find another way. But I would say we should finish on that note.
Yes.
I would like to say goodbye to everyone watching us, and my name is Marina Kramer, and I was here for FESmedia Asia, the media project of Friedrich Ebert Foundation in Asia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.